All right, AS Economics candidates, welcome. If you're gearing up for the February/March 2026 paper 2, then you are in exactly the right place. We are about to break this whole thing down strategically to give you the clarity and honestly, the confidence to nail it. So let's walk through this paper piece by piece and figure out what you really need to know. Okay, first things first, a really crucial reality check. Cambridge has confirmed there are some layout and formatting changes coming in 2026. The idea is just to make the paper a bit more accessible. But, and this is the important part, don't let a new look freak you out. The heart of the exam, the actual content, the difficulty, the types of questions is staying exactly the same as the 2023 to 2025 series. So what does that mean for you? It means all that practice you're doing on past papers is still 100% relevant. But here's where the pressure really kicks in. You've got 120 minutes to get through 60 marks. If you do the math, that is exactly 2 minutes for every single mark. 2 minutes! There is absolutely no time to waste. Every second counts, which is why having a solid game plan before you even walk into that exam hall isn't just a good idea, it's non-negotiable. So, here's how we're going to tackle this. We've just done the reality check. Next up, we'll decode that compulsory Section A data response. After that, we'll jump into my top predictions for the micro-essays in Section B and then the macro-essays in Section C. And to wrap it all up, we'll go over the single most important technique you need to lock in that A grade.
Right, let's dive into the part of the paper you absolutely cannot skip. Section A. This is the compulsory data response question. It's worth a massive 20 marks, and it's always based on a real-world economic situation.
The great thing about Section A is that it follows a really predictable pattern, kind of like a three-step dance. First, you'll pull some info from the text and do a straightforward calculation. Second, you'll be asked to draw a technical diagram. And third, you'll write a mini essay assessing a government policy. Based on the latest trends, I'd bet on a case study about government intervention, something like environmental subsidies for green energy, or maybe buffer stocks for food prices. For that first calculation part, this formula is your absolute best friend. Percentage change is always the new value minus the old value, all divided by the old value. It's simple, I know, but you'd be surprised how easy it is to blank on this stuff under pressure. Don't let these easy marks get away from you. Next up, the diagram. This is where you can score a ton of points just on pure technical skill. You'll probably have to show some kind of market intervention. So, for example, you might show how a government subsidy shifts the supply curve to the right, which leads to a new, lower price and a higher quantity. Precision is everything here, okay? Label your axes, your curves, your equilibrium points. Label everything clearly to get all the credit. And that brings us to the grand finale of Section A, usually a 6-mark assess question. Now, here's a massive tip. Whenever you see the word assess, your brain should immediately translate that to evaluate. To get the top marks, you absolutely must show a balanced argument. Talk about the pros and the cons of the policy. Then finish it all off with a short, sharp, justified conclusion. This is really your first big chance to show the examiner you can think like a real economist. All right, on to Section B. This is where you get your first taste of freedom. You'll get 2 20-mark microeconomic essay questions, and you just have to pick one. Now, looking at how the syllabus is weighted and the patterns from past papers, I'm pretty confident your choice is going to be between these 2 heavy hitters. A question on elasticities and how they help businesses, or a question all about market failure and what the government does about it. So let's break down prediction number 1. Part A is likely your knowledge check, asking you to explain the difference between price elasticity of demand, PED, and income elasticity of demand, YED. Then, Part B, the big 12-mark evaluation, will ask you to assess which one is more useful for a business that's trying to make more money. That's where you'll have to compare how they're used in the real world. And prediction 2? It's all about market failure. Part A could be another skills test asking you to draw a diagram to explain consumer and producer surplus. Then Part B will probably zoom in on demerit goods, asking you to assess if an indirect tax is really the best way to get people to consume less of them. The key word there is best. It's a signal that you need to compare taxes to other policies, like government regulations or maybe even public awareness campaigns. And now we're on the home stretch, Section C. The setup here is exactly the same as Section B. You'll choose one 20-mark essay from a choice of 2, but this time, obviously, we're talking big picture macroeconomics. So, For your macro essay choices, the most likely topics are a question that connects inflation and exchange rates, or one that gets into the nitty-gritty of monetary policy and unemployment. Both of these are absolute cornerstones of the AS macro syllabus. Let's look at that first macro prediction. Part A will probably ask you to explain the two main drivers of inflation, demand pull and cost push. Easy enough. Part B then throws you a classic economic dilemma. You'll need to assess whether a fall in a country's exchange rate is more likely to cause painful inflation or to helpfully improve the current account balance. It's a trade-off. Now for our second macro prediction, all about monetary policy. Part A could very well be another diagram question. Use an 80/AS model to show how cutting interest rates can fire up aggregate demand and get the economy growing. But the real challenge is in Part B, where you have to assess the limits of that policy. Sure, it might help some unemployment, but can it reduce all types? What about structural unemployment, where people's skills just don't match the jobs available? That's what you'll need to dig into. So, we've gone through the structure and the most likely questions, but how do you take an answer from just good to A grade great? Well, it all boils down to one critical skill. Just look at this breakdown. As this chart shows, AO3, which is evaluation, makes up nearly a third of your essay marks. That is a massive chunk. Let me be clear, you simply can't get a top grade if you haven't mastered evaluation in those 12-mark questions. So how do you actually show evaluation? It's all about using the language of an economist. You need to be dropping in phrases like ceteris paribus, which just means all other things being equal. When you're talking about exchange rates, use terms like expenditure switching effects. That's just a smart way to describe how consumers switch between domestic and foreign goods. And always, structure your analysis around the pros and the cons. And the final knockout punch? End every single 12-mark answer with a justified conclusion that weighs up all the evidence. And there you have it. You've got the structure, you've got the predictions, and you've got the key technique. Yeah, the exam might be in 2026, but the work that leads to success, that starts right now. So go through your notes, practice these exact question styles, and get that evaluation technique down until it's second nature. You've totally got this. Good luck.